Hi, this is Lisa. In this video, I'm going to talk about factoring trinomials. The first step is to review multiplying binomials. When you multiply using the distributive property or FOIL, first, x times x is x squared. Outside terms, x times negative 4 gives us negative 4x. Inside, 3 times x plus 3x, and 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. If I combine my middle terms, I get x squared minus x minus 12. So when we talk about factoring trinomials with a leading coefficient of 1, we're talking about a trinomial like this where the first term is x squared. And the way we got x squared is that we multiplied the first term in each set of parentheses. X times x gives us x squared. And the negative 12 came from the last two things in the parentheses. 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. And our middle term came from adding the outside and the inside terms. So when we talk about steps to factor trinomials with a leading coefficient of 1, you look at all possible ways to factor the constant term c. In other words, how did we get that negative 12? What times what gave us negative 12? We're going to choose the factors that add up to the middle coefficient b. Negative 4, positive 3 gave us negative 1 for our middle coefficient here. And we write the trinomial in factored form. If our leading term was x squared, the only way we can factor is x times x. So our first terms in parentheses are going to be x. And then we can always check our factoring by multiplying out our product. Example number 1. All terms are positive, so I'm not going to worry about any signs here. First term, x squared, is when we multiply x times x. If I look at my last term, it's positive 8. Factors of 8, 1 times 8 or 2 times 4. Now I always start with 1 and then I move to 2. 3 was not a factor. 4 is already in my list, so I know I have all the possible combinations. And then I need to find the combination that's going to add up to give me a positive 6 for my middle coefficient. 1 plus 8 is 9. 2 plus 4 is 6. So I know that's the right combination. Inside my parentheses, I'm going to have x plus 2, x plus 4. And if I multiply that out to check it, I'm going to do that FOIL again. I get x squared plus 4x plus 2x plus 8. And adding my middle terms, x squared plus 6x plus 8. That was the same as my original polynomial. I know I have factored correctly. I'm going to look at one more example here. X squared. First terms, x and x. And I look at my last term. This time I have a positive 35, but when I look, I have a negative 12 here. The only way I can factor this to add up to a negative number is if both of my factors are negative. So again, I'm going to start with 1. Negative 1 times negative 35. 2 is not a factor. 3, 4, 5 is a factor. Negative 5 times negative 7. And those are all my possible factors. I need that middle coefficient, or I need to add to get negative 12. Negative 5 plus negative 7 is negative 12. So in my parentheses, I will have x minus 5, x minus 7. Got a couple more examples to show you. X squared factors as x times x. Negative 21. When I factor negative 21, I have to have one positive and one negative. So 1 times negative 21 or negative 1 times positive 21. Negative 3 times positive 7 or positive 3 times negative 7. Those are all my possible combinations. And when I look to see which is going to add up to give me a positive 4, negative 3 plus 7 is 4. So that's the combination I'm going to put in parentheses, minus 3 plus 7. And the last problem I'm going to do for you today, x squared factors as x times x, negative 24. Negative 24 has a lot of factors here. We're going to do 1 times negative 24, negative 1 times 24. 2 times negative 12, negative 2 times positive 12. 3 times negative 8, negative 3 times positive 8. 4 times negative 6, or negative 4 times positive 6. And we want the combination that adds up to give us negative 5 for our middle coefficient. 3 plus negative 8 is negative 5. So what I put in parentheses is a positive 3 and a negative 5. And now my polynomial is completely factored. And that concludes the video on factoring trinomials.